Hey guys, I'm Firefly, and today I'm designing two characters for my comic. As you can see, I've already designed these characters, so this is just a redraw, focusing on styling these characters for the comic itself. So this character is named Corbin, and the main thing I wanted to change for him was his torso and face shape, along with giving him a sword that I added into the book during this recent draft. So to start, I drew the shape I wanted his torso to be and then redrew the line art over on top of that. So you can kind of see I sketch it out a little bit, but I'm really just copying the lines from my original design and putting them in the correct place so that his shoulders are broad instead of pretty thin. You can also see that as I'm drawing his new torso, I'm adding in the thick lines. Sometimes I wait until the very end to add them, and sometimes I just add them as I finish different sections. It's just depending on how I'm feeling that day and how I'm wanting to draw. Now I do go over all the lines. I don't reuse any of the ones from the original, which I probably could have a little bit for the legs at least, but I wanted everything to be consistent, so I just went ahead and redrew everything. That way I could also fix any small errors that I found while working on him. So at this point, I was comparing my old character with my new character a little bit, and I started to really change his jaw because I didn't really do that when I first drew his line art. So I used the red line to kind of get a base and then went over it with new fresh line art that I added into the final thing. And I didn't want to change any of the colors, so I just blocked those in pretty fast. Didn't change any of that for him. For my other character, I changed quite a bit of coloring. While redoing his line art, I realized that I never added the straps for his bag to his belt, so it's kind of just sitting there in the air, so I went ahead and added those to his design and colored those in. Now this is the last big thing that I did, was the addition of the sword, which I added in the third draft for my comic, and it's pretty important for a couple of my characters. This is a very powerful sword made from a unicorn's horn, which is why I added it to the hilt. I thought about making it the actual blade, but I decided I didn't like how it looked in my head before I even tried, and I like the idea of the swirling handle. I leaned heavier into the dragon side when designing the handle too, adding a claw with an orb in its grasp at the bottom, and made the wing kind of wrap around the blade and come down to protect the wielder's hand. Just like I did with the saddles in the video on horses, I completely outlined the sword with a thicker line just to separate it from the character. For now, I have the orb at the hilt of the sword, kind of like a pearl or a moon, keeping with a white color. I don't know if I'm going to keep this or if I'll change it later. I haven't given it much thought, so you might not see it as this color when I actually post my comic. This next character is named Wren, and unlike Corbin, she has been stylized at all. This was just when I was practicing human anatomy and trying to get proportions correct and designed. So we're going to be completely stylizing her in this video. So to start, I draw over her design exactly how it is with red, because I just generally sketch with red color, sometimes black, but mainly red. And after I finish outlining everything in the red color, I'm able to use the mesh tool to kind of get the proportions worked out a little bit better, so that way I can stylize her a bit easier. So after I mess with her style a bit, I pull in one of my other characters that I've designed, and this is just to make sure that the style is consistent throughout, since they are going to be seen together when they're in the comic. You can mainly see my changes in style if you look at her waist, shoulders, and face shape. The big thing with this character too is I didn't like her shirt or corset shape, so I went ahead and changed those when I did the sketch. I didn't like the waves in the skirt, and I just didn't think the corset matched well. Now I haven't done it yet, and I don't have it in this video, but this character does have a bow that she carries as a weapon, but I have yet to actually design it. So it's not in this video, but I'll be adding it later. Now in this drawing, her hand is messed up. I do plan on going back and fixing that later, but I'm going to take a photo of my own hand and use that as a reference so that way I can get the fingers correct, because I was just having a hard time getting them correct. I thought I fixed them, and then when I finished I realized they're terrible, but I will get those fixed too. Once I completely finish the line art, I kind of compare her to her old design. I just want to make sure everything's looking still true to her character, even though the stylizing is a little bit different. So after all that's done, I start to block in the color, which I do change a few things because I did not like the original colors. They just weren't working, especially that green. It was too much and too bright, especially when she was with her family members. So I actually bring in one of her family members and color match with that character, which is where the darker teal comes into play. I also changed the color of her feathers to black and brown. This is because they kind of represent her family members, whereas at first they were just decorative pieces that I really didn't even know what color I wanted them to be. So the two black ones are representative of Corbin, and then the brown one is for Sparrow, which you will see in a future video. However, I didn't record the design process for that character, so I'll be just drawing like something like a character card, with some music, like a regular speed paint, instead of a design process video.